everybody, welcome to Ministry Mondays with Meg. I'm Meg. Welcome to the show. If this is your first time, welcome. Where have you been? We're glad you're here now, but where have you been? You're missing the fun. So, like every episode, I always say I'm so excited about my guest. And if you haven't figured it out by now, I really am excited about my guest that week. This one is special because you know what? I don't know if you probably don't even know this. I still tell everybody that you're still my pastor, Pastor Dan. So the last church, the church that licensed me, I did my internship there. So this is the last place before I went and served in ministry on my own. And Dan was the pastor there. So this one's really special for me. So for people who don't know you, Pastor Dan, maybe I should, do I call you Pastor Dan? What do I call you?
Yeah.
So for people who don't know you, what you're up to now, tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. Been looking forward to it, and congratulations on this format that you've made so successful. It's exciting to see that. So my name's Dan Cash, and I'm coming from Columbus, Indiana, where I reside. What do? I do a lot of different things right now, but what have I done? Let me start that way. So was thinking about this. I've been in ministry in some form since 1984, which means I'm an old guy now. But that started with campus ministry at Purdue University, where I was getting my undergrad. And I was ordained in 1990. And since then, I've served in church ministry roles, church staff, pastor, solo pastor, lead pastor, regional ministry roles. And currently, I'm kind of on a bridge to retirement. So that means I'm doing a lot of part-time things. I'm a hospital chaplain a few days a week for a Franciscan system in Indianapolis. And I am an academic dean of a certificate in theology program for a couple of our regions. And then I also do some teaching at a local college here. I teach an Introduction to Christianity course. I've been doing that for about 3 years now. So that keeps me busy. Yeah.
So that's what the path to retirement looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, because pastors never really retire. I mean, people in ministry never retire, really.
Yeah. So I'm still trying to figure that out, but not currently doing any preaching, which was a lot of that 41 years. So finding other ways to be creative, and the pastoral care bit gets picked up, of course, in the chaplaincy work, and that's rewarding. But do some writing, and then the teaching also encapsulates some of the creativity stuff. So,
I mean, I think you could write a ton of books, just about, you'd have to change the names of the guilty, to protect them and all that stuff, but about what you've learned over, this. I remember myself one day after, I think it was after the kids had gone and you're putting up tables and chairs, and you looked at me, you're like, this is ministry, Meg. Yeah. This is ministry. and those are important things though for people to, because you're like, oh yeah, which is kind of why I've started this version of the podcast, is for people to go, everything that we do is ministry, even when it is putting up tables and chairs in the fellowship hall. I mean,
I think that's so true, Meg. And if we can have that identity, if we're called to ministry and we have an identity that our call to serve Christ is our primary call, and we happen to do that in different places, right? And then with different partnerships over a career, but we're always doing ministry wherever we're at.
So, wow, teaching the intro to Christianity, so doing the chaplaincy, you've got, and we've got the books to talk about. I mean, wow, that must really. I couldn't imagine like trying to throw pastoral a church congregation in on top of that.
Yeah, I did an interim for about 13 months while I was doing that other stuff, and it was a lot, quite honestly. So happy to let that go for now. But the neat thing about the chaplaincy work and also the teaching work is I am in a context that's very non-church related, and able to represent Christ in those places in my own way, right? I'm not over the top in either one of those places because that's not what's needed there. I happen to be a semi-retired pastor who teaches at a branch of the state college, right? But and I'm a Protestant Baptist pastor who's a chaplain at a Roman Catholic hospital. So I'm a guest in both places, but I'm very welcome to represent Christ in those places as well. And I meet people in their more neutral places. And so I meet people in those places in the name of Christ in a way that you didn't meet people when you were the host pastor of the church they were coming to.
Right. Like when you meet somebody on the airplane, you don't go, "Hi, I'm Reverend Doctor."
That's right.
I mean, actually, that's the last thing I want to do is introduce myself. I mean, I don't. Yeah. Because that's just because the reactions you get, I think sometimes it's off-putting to go, this is who I am, here's my titles and yeah.
And I think the ethos of chaplaincy is you meet people where they're at and you join them in that journey, right?
Yeah.
And you're respectful of where they're at, because we have, certainly non-Christian patients at the hospital, patients of other faiths at the hospital. So you work to do some good quality listening to figure out where they're at.
Yeah. And I remember even with my own chaplaincy experience being over in the kids hospital, mm-hmm. They don't care about a title, because they've got this thing going on and you're just trying to figure out a way that you can meet them where they're at. And sometimes I think it's just asking them a good question.
Exactly. And what you're able to offer is somebody who's not going to take their blood or poke them with a needle or anything like that. You're there to have a conversation or just to listen. And usually what I've been pleased about is that is generally pretty well accepted by people, even people who don't claim any faith identity.
Yeah. And I appreciate that very much, like that ability to meet people where they are, regardless of where that location is, because
right.
What it is today and where it may be tomorrow are two very different places. So I want to make sure that I mention all the books. But so like the 8 questions Jesus asked, that one I used in one of my churches.
Great.
And the Changing Church, I had to borrow this one because my other one is in my office at home. But they're I'll say, at least for me, they're books that you highlight and that you write in, and that you want to actually use those books. They're not just books that sit on the shelf.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah. So the story of the books. Both of those books are published by Judson Press, and they are both collaborative projects that I co-authored with my co-author Bill Griffith, who was a former pastor of the Columbus First Baptist Church where we were together. And as a former pastor, he and I became good friends and worked on a Bible study together. And so both books grew out of a Bible study. They were curriculum that we wrote for a men's study. And then one day we have coffee periodically and we're just talking, and he said, "Do you think that could be a book?" And we put together a proposal on the first book, the 8 questions book, and Judson Press agreed to go forward with it. So, but we wanted it to be just what you called it, something that was practical, that a pastor could use, a small group could use, a Sunday school class could use. And I think the 8 questions group, for instance, makes a great study for like Lent to work through, because Jesus asks all these questions, right, in his ministry, and then we just pulled 8 of them out to do a little deeper dive into.
Yeah, and I think as we've, I mean, if we're honest, like that's what life is made up of, is lots of different questions, and
Yes.
and even within those questions Jesus asked, there's that space for the unasked question, like, and I think when we as pastors, faith leaders, give people space to do that in these studies, is to go, but what else did Jesus ask? I mean, this can't be all the conversation, right? I mean, there's got to be, and I think when you give people space to do that, that's when you end up with great books, great tools. Like,
I think a good pastor learns in their ministry when to answer a question with asking a question, right? Because you recognize in that question that there's some searching going on in that individual, and that may be the presenting issue, but there's something deeper there. And so you've probably done this, but you turn around with another question, just like Jesus did, and that automatically takes the conversation deeper.
Yeah.
And it also takes the pressure off of you to have to think you have to have all the answers, because none of us has all the answers.
Yeah, and wasn't that a smart thing to learn in your ministry? Is that saying I don't know is okay? That's
I learned that right away because I didn't know, and I still don't.
Right. Like, you've got the same Bible I do, and no, I can't pick up the phone and just call God, kind of thing. But that saying I don't know is helpful.
So the 8 questions book is probably my favorite of all the books I've worked on, but I like them all. So I'll talk a little bit about the Changing Church.
Yes.
That came out of a lifetime of ministry that I just feel like anybody in ministry today is in a period where we're walking with the church through significant change. And I realized probably 5-10 years into my career, we were never going to get on the other side of that definitively. I was going to spend my entire ministry career in a period of vast change. And so how to help the church address that and look at that and understand it became a big focus of my ministry. I did a DMin around leadership stuff and did a lot of exploring that in that. And some of that works in the book, but it also became a Bible study that was accessible to lay people. So we took some of the theory stuff and we made it accessible in a Bible study format where people could talk about it. And, people don't talk about change easily. They kind of go to their corners. So we wanted to make it a palatable thing that was invitational and was non-confrontive. And I think we succeeded in that Bible study.
Yeah.
And then that eventually becomes the book. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a little biased, but that's okay. It's my show and they let me do what I want. So I can be. But yeah, I agree. I think it's very much so. But how interesting though that you talk about how you realized that your whole entire ministry is going to be about this period of change, and it's still it. I don't know that it will ever stop.
No,
really. I mean,
one of the metaphors that I borrowed in that book was I had read some work that Phyllis Tickle had done where she talked about the 500-year rummage sale, and that the church about every 500 years has gone through what she called a rummage sale. And I have a personal, very high dislike for rummage sales. They're just not my favorite, but they accomplish something. They help you sort out all your junk, right, and get rid of what you don't need. And then even if whatever doesn't sell, in our practice, we always took it to Goodwill or San Souci or somewhere.
Right.
And so then you go back into the house and you think, oh, I didn't remember we had that. We can see things in a fresh way, right?
Yeah.
So she said every 500 years the church did that. And the last one prior to this one was the Reformation, right? So now here we are in this sorting out time all over again. And maybe one of my students, we were talking about in class, and they said, well, how long will it take to sort it out? And I said, I don't know. How long did it take for the Reformation to sort out? I mean, that went on for a couple of centuries, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I just can't. I just feel like that's just how the church is now. It's okay, here we are post-pandemic.
Yes. Yes.
And these buildings and it's figuring out the new church, really. Yes. Or what the church is today. And not getting stuck in, remember, it's not 1950. It's not been 1950 for
a... So I've often said to people, I don't know what it's going to look like down the road, but I'm pretty confident that God's not given up on the church.
Right.
It's going to look different, but it's still the means by which God's accomplishing God's mission. So just embrace the change.
Exactly. And I still love the church. I mean, the church is important. It just needs to change like everything else. And as we've already said, and we already all know, change is hard. Change is really, really hard.
Yes.
So your third book, right?
Yeah.
This is your first solo endeavor then, right?
Yeah. So a very different kind of book for me. This is a work of what I call historical fiction. And it's a story that is centered around my grandparents. So Clyde and Anna Cash were my grandparents. And my granddad, Clyde Cash, went to the Dakotas to homestead when he was a young man, single. So this would have been about 1915. It was at the very end of the homestead movement. But North Dakota, where he ended up, was making use of homesteading as a means to populate the state. So there were kind of three things that came together actually during the Civil War that created the homestead movement. One was the Homestead Act that the Civil War Congress passed, making it possible to have land. You could get up to 160 acres if you proved it up over so many years. And then the Transcontinental Railroad Act that made travel and the expansion to the West possible. And then the third thing, maybe less impactful, but still there, was the Land Grant University Act that made places like Purdue University in Indiana and North Dakota State University in North Dakota have extension services that supported farmers who were trying to homestead in those places. So all of that became available kind of in those decades after the 1860s, after the Civil War. And my granddad was one who got the bug and who decided he was kind of a Western wanderer to go west, to go to North Dakota. And his plan was to establish a farm. And then his sweetheart, the woman who would become his wife, Anna, was going to join him there. Well, I don't know a lot of the story because I'm the youngest of 19 grandkids, and he was gone before I was ever born. Okay. So what I had was anecdotes passed down through family oral history over the years. And I kind of took those and did a lot of research on North Dakota and homesteading, and I wrote a story about Clyde Cash going to homestead in North Dakota. So it was a fun project. To give away the ending, He encountered in my story many of the challenges that a homesteader would have, and he eventually was presented, and I know this was true, an ultimatum by my grandmother, Anna: either you come back or we're done.
All right.
And he
I
came
mean,
back.
and he
Or I
came
wouldn't
back.
be talking to you today. So he went back to Indiana. So the title of the book is Dakota Dreams in Hoosier Homeland, because he was a Hoosier. So he came back to Indiana and they got married. He started a successful ready-mix block business that's still a family business today. And he always had a love for the West. So in his later years, he would go and build houses in the winter in Arizona, for instance. So the West never completely left him. But in that case, he was able to take Anna, my grandma, with him. And they had a long life together. So, yeah, that's the story.
Well, I can't wait to read it then. And so,
Yeah.
and did you self-publish this one?
Yeah, it's through Amazon. So I found a way to publish it pretty economically.
Awesome.
And it's worked out pretty slick. So, yeah,
so we'll make sure, as we always do, but we'll make sure that we put the links to the eight questions, the Changing Church, but especially this one, so that folks can.
Yeah. So the rest of the story with this one, Meg, and you may know this, but so 107 years later, I'm in the Dakotas for a brief time because I was called there to be executive minister. And I'm traveling some of the same land that Clyde Cash traveled. And I'm facing, 107 years later, some of the same hardships that Clyde Cash faced because I'm there by myself. And so the writing the story was cathartic for me because it allowed me to kind of process that brief chapter in my life that didn't end up working out well, and just kind of heal a little bit from that. Yeah. So that was part of what drew me to the story as well.
Oh, good. Oh, yay. Well, I am really excited about reading that because it sounds, being a Hoosier native, and it sounds lovely, and knowing that my mother's side of the family did homesteading in Kentucky. So that the homestead is still there, actually. So so I do look forward to, and I hope other people will read it and enjoy it as much as I have. So has there been, like, in your writing, in all the things that you've done, like, has there been a piece of it that you've enjoyed more than others, or is it just because it's just this period in time? I mean, how does that?
This particular project was enjoyable because it was a way to have a creative outlet and at the same time address a personal need, right?
Yeah.
I've spent the last couple of years just kind of processing.
Yeah.
But and what I discuss, so as a pastor responsible for preaching every week, what I enjoyed the preaching experience, but I enjoyed the creative experience of that. Yes. It was the time in the study. It was, for me, a sermon was always a written exercise before it became an outline, or notes before it became preached. And I realized if you've done that for 30 plus years and you're in that rhythm, and then you all of a sudden you're not in that rhythm anymore, there's like this hole in yourself. So writing, for me, anytime I haven't had a primary preaching responsibility, has been the way I've filled that hole. So, and often that was ministry related writing. It was just kind of refreshing to write about something that wasn't about leadership, that wasn't about discipleship. It was just a story, right?
It's just a story. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a history buff, so it had historical stuff to it. But yeah, that was fun. Just a lot of fun.
So do you think that you've got another book in you?
I think so. I don't want to promise anything, but there's another family story that I want to tackle wonderful. And that's the story of my dad's service in the Korean War. And so my brother's helping me pull together some research right now and how to look at that and what was going on with my mom back home. So kind of a similar storyline. He was away for a period and what that was like. But yeah, and if you're a writer, there's always an idea kicking around in your head.
I love historical fiction myself. Like that's my favorite genre anyway.
Yeah.
But well, I know you're not going to promise, but we'll look forward. We'll look forward to that one too.
Yeah.
I mean, what a life it's been, and you still have all this to go yet. I mean,
so when I took over for a guy who was retiring years ago in a ministry position when I was in Indiana doing area ministry at the time, and he told me as he was walking off into his retirement, he said, "I'm entering the third chapter of my life." And I didn't know that language at the time. And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, retirement, if it's going to be productive, should be seen as your third chapter. You've had your growing up years, your educational years, you've had your vocational years. Now you've got your third chapter." And I've often come back to that what I've seen of people who are in their later years or in retirement, those who do best don't just go sit somewhere. They continue to be productive and they make the most of that. So that's the challenge, is figuring out what that looks like. And
yeah,
you can't
I've never heard that term used. I like that though. Your third chapter.
Yep.
Well, that'll stick with. I mean, that's something that will stick with me. But I agree. And sometimes our retired folks are the busiest people.
That's right.
That
That's right. And they have a lot to offer. And I think most people know that, but it's sad when somebody sort of dismisses somebody who's got all that wisdom or all that experience when, they may not want a 40-hour-a-week gig, but they can give you 10 good hours or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. Because everybody has something to contribute, no matter what age they are. I'm a big believer in that. Even and one lady who collected everybody's cards and turned them into new cards.
Yes.
And we just kept her stamps, and that was her ministry in her late 80s and 90s, was sending, and they were beautiful cards. You loved getting a card from Dolores. And I didn't give mine back because I loved them. Which she didn't like, because she wanted her cards back, but I'm like, but I want to keep my card. It's lovely, But I think seeing that in people is an important thing to do. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
See, this is why I love doing this. Is just you learn something about people every time, and everyone has their own story to tell, and in your case, you've got yours, plus you get to share this piece of your family, this piece of your history.
Yeah, I went to church Sunday and I was greeted as the grandson of Clyde Cash by somebody who'd read the book. So
oh, how's that?
That was kind of cool.
Yeah. Because I mean, but like, think about it. When, I don't know about you, but like when I was younger, when you were, oh, this is Steve's daughter. This is,
right.
And you so much wanted your own identity. But then as you get older, this is Clyde Cash's grandson. And you're like, yeah, I am. How cool is that? I mean, what a life. So the joy question. So all these things, that you do, what brings you joy?
Yeah, it's a lot of those things that I do. I would be remiss if I didn't say it's our grandkids first and foremost. So we've got 5 grandchildren and 2 little girls, year or less old,
Oh my God.
have been the blessing of the last year, and then there are 3 boy cousins. So 4 of them live in the same community we do, and the other one's a bit away in Denver, but we get to see her several times a year.
Oh,
So it's joyful to just be a grandparent. I'm granddad. My wife is Lolly. She wanted me to be Pop, so we'd be Lollipop, and I said I'm not a Pop. I'm a granddad.
Lori, I
Lori, so
love
you know
that. Lori, I love that. What else do I get it?
Beyond that, I'm still doing things that working in the garden, working in the lawn brings me joy. Going for a bike ride brings me joy. Teaching, I'm so grateful to be able to teach and write. Those are things that just do bring me joy. I'm glad not to be going to committee meetings. Those didn't bring me joy.
Yeah.
So,
And had all those bosses. I mean, really.
right.
I mean, and yeah. Yes, I'm sure. Wow. Well, this is the thing that brings me joy. Oh my gosh, this how much fun is this? So listeners, viewers, you've now met Pastor Dan, if you didn't know him before, and all these fantastic books that we have to share with you, the 8 questions, the changing church. Let's see, Dakota Dreams and Who's Your Homeland. Did I get everything?
That's right.
And I'll put all the links to those so that you folks can also share in those. Any other projects that I need to mention you got going on?
I think that's about it for now.
Okay. All right. Well, if something else comes up, let us know. And that's always the thing I look for, is ways to pull people in. So
well, thank you, Meg, for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and congratulations on this format. It's fun for me to see you thriving in your ministry.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And we thank everybody for watching us, and we'll see you next time.